All right, and here we go. Welcome to episode number 37 of You Had Me at Halo, where we talk about one of gaming's most storied franchises. And today we are going to dive into the future. We're going to do our best to pull out our crystal balls. After hundreds of hours, I think, between all of us, we've all got a good taste of what's out there and potentially what's to come. But before we get into all that, let's go ahead and meet today's Spartan team. First up, we got Mr. Spartan Mike, a.k.a. Mr. Kage Maru. How's it going, Mr. Mike?
Hey, guys.
Next up, I guess hello. All right. What's a You Had Me at Halo without the clunkiest intro in all of podcasting?
I'm tired.
It's only been 37 episodes. We'll get it someday, guys. Someday this will just go smoothly.
Give me 30 minutes and I'll wait up.
Next up, we got Spartan Jesse, aka Mr. Don Cabeza. How's it going, Jesse?
I am doing swimmingly well. I've got a bunch of dumb shit on our screen for fun. I hope you are all doing great.
Thank you, Jesse.
That was so wrong.
You're dancing.
No.
I'm just seeing, Dancing Chief.
No. What have you done?
Oh, well, that's perfect. That's probably like the next thing that's going to come in the
Thriller. That's amazing.
The battle pass, right? Like Dancing Chief is somewhere along the line. It's coming along. Yeah, Mike's just waiting. Is waiting, holding his breath for the cowboy hat on Chief.
You can get antlers at the end of the.
I mean, you got the caddy. You got the cat ears by now. I feel like you're broken into everything, right? Like, what at this point, it's just uphill. All right, so we got Spartan. We got Spartan Daniel, aka Mr. Knottian. How's it going, man? I got that backwards tonight.
Whatever your name is.
Yeah.
Shit.
Hey, at least. Hey, like I said, let's just keep going. It's the beginning of the year. We need to get warmed up. And then you know what it was is next up I usually introduce Aarsal, but Aarsal's coming in late, so that threw me off. So for all of you wondering where Aarsal is, he shall be probably joining us partially through the show. Finally, as your host today, Spartan Abe, aka Onebadmutha. All right, so without further ado, we'll kind of jump into today's topic. I don't think we have really a whole lot of news that's been going on. 343's been on break. The only news I think we've had since the last time we met is big team battle isn't working, but matchmaking's been down. But we'll talk about some of that stuff here later. But last week or 2 weeks ago when we met, we talked about the campaign. We did our spoiler cast, and we really delved into the story, the lore. Some of the things that we liked and some of the opportunities from the campaign. Now, Daniel, you weren't able to be with us then, so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of start with you as we kind of move into the future of it. And you being a lore guy, I guess let's just go ahead and start kind of where you're at with the franchise. What are some of the things that that you're looking forward to with the campaign and the upcoming year potentially, or and that's going to be something else for discussion too. Or when do you expect to see some of this stuff?
So I'm going to avoid any spoilers since this is no longer a spoiler cast. But well, no, actually, I was pretty happy.
Spoilers are fair game, by the way. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay. So I was pretty happy. I missed the last or 2 weeks ago, like you said. Being sick and all that, so I was pretty happy with the story. I think the biggest misses, if you could call them that, were I think all of us probably would agree that we definitely want to see some more variety. We want to see more of Zeta Halo. I want to see they directly referred to the experimentation that was going on in the Palace of Pain. Multiple times. So I want to see, even just going there and seeing the remnants, even if nothing is there, even if it's just one of those like kind of lore filled side areas. Like I still want to go there. I still want to see more of the ring. We know that there were a lot more survivors from the Infinity that we didn't see too. So, we've kind of speculated that it'd be cool if future DLCs focused on some of those side characters. And I think whether you're still Chief and just meeting them and doing missions for or with them, like Lasky and whatnot, that'd be great. But I think in general, I just want to see. Like I don't know, that the report about 2/3 content being cut and all that kind of stuff. Like that happens with every game. Maybe not to that extent or whatever, but I definitely would like to see some of what may have been. Definitely with some of the other characters. I saw there was some leaks about. Some data mining that was done, and additional content was found within there. So we'll see how much that comes to fruition. I don't think we'll see anything for at least 6 months. Hopefully, maybe next holiday we'll have a meaty, campaign expansion from there to go to play around with. But I think just seeing more of the characters and seeing more of Zeta Halo, like that's what I want. Like Mike and I kind of talked about a few times. Like I want to see some snow. So
yeah, that's definitely one of the. That was definitely one of the more glaring things missing. Now, Jesse, I know you are. You're never afraid of spoilers or digging around for the data mining, things like that. And I'm not asking for spoilers.
Say too.
Yeah,
I forgot. The if you've seen the legendary ending, where we're going from there. Obviously, I think most of us have kind of speculated that the precursors are back. In a way. So I'm curious to see there, but Jesse can take it from there. I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that.
Yeah, so based off of some of the data mining things, and I think we that's always interesting. Obviously, not asking to spoil what's coming in the future, possibly, but I think you get kind of an idea of what was potentially out there, things like that. Is there any predictions from you, Jesse, or anything like that when it comes to where they might go with the campaign at this point in time? Or I think for the most part, most of the community is still pretty vague on what the content, how big it might be, things like that at this point.
Yeah, there's really been no indication, and I do wonder. They said that this month we'll get a roadmap for the year. I imagine that will only be a multiplayer one.
Yeah.
So I don't think we'll hear anything about the campaign plans until possibly E3.
Yeah.
The legendary ending ends off with someone that you could actually see. If you go back to last July's minute-long gameplay trailer that they put out, there's one scene. There's 3 red eyes reflected in Chief's visor, which is very obviously the person mentioned in the legendary ending. Is offensive bias.
Oh, so, I thought it was going to be Sam Fisher. Sorry.
Not green there, red. Green. Rampant Fisher. But yeah, so it'll probably be because offensive bias was pretty clearly the one who's helping the weapon and you the whole time, putting up the portals whenever you needed them. Mm-hmm. So going from there and seeing who are the Endless, why were the Forerunners so afraid of them? Why did they betray them? Essentially, because the chat logs make it clear that the Endless called them for help, and then they just show up and imprison them without ever listening to anything they have to say or anything, because they were able to survive firing the firing of a ring. But all we know for now. So where it goes from here, I'm not sure. The next book isn't going to be in the future. It's going to be the previous 6 months between Chief losing to Atriox, the Infinity getting whatever happened to it, fully destroyed. Don't know. And then the 6 months after, from when that happened to right when they all died, right before Chief came back. So it's not going to be a happy book. Only one of them is alive, I think. But it's all those Spartans we hear in the audio logs and mostly find either dead or just about to die throughout the game. So it'll be interesting to get that context and to see where, I think it was Horvath, where he went to. I think that will probably be one of the first DLCs we get. because he was going to look for more UNSC on the ring, because obviously we only get that really small chunk of the ring overall, because that's where Cortana had been, and you had to go and get the weapon there. But they went everywhere, from what you can tell. We have no idea where Lasky went. We don't know what mission Blue Team had been on, if they'll ever be around in this story, or if they'll be out somewhere else. We know Locke is there as a toy. It says as appears in Halo Infinite on his Mega Bloks toy.
Yeah, it seems like he was.
He got the shit kicked out of him, and he lost his armor, but he was not killed. So that's why they have his helmet on their shoulder, and he is in ODST gear, like just ODST pants and a friggin' Christ, what a sleeveless T-shirt. I mean, I didn't want to say the other way people call about it, because that's a bad term. So yeah, it's friggin'. It could go. They sort of set themselves up where they finished their original story from 4 and 5, but then just gave themselves this huge canvas that they can go who knows where on.
Right.
Because they are obviously very, very into the lore. If you see what some people have found, like with what the ancient writing that's on the tablets in certain areas, that always has to do with that was from Sandtrap and some other maps in Halo 3. Like they dug deep, and gave them they took these things that Bungie loved planting seeds that they would maybe figure out the answer for later. They didn't always have it super planned out. Yeah. Joe had a lot of that planned out. They just then cut everything, and then so none of it made sense anymore. Kind of like a lot of Halo campaigns have gone. But yeah, I mean, even 4, as much as I like the story of 4, it was not supposed to be that. They are always having to adjust on the fly. 343 thankfully doesn't do that. So at least with this one, didn't have to. They did with the other. Yeah.
So that was interesting. One of the things you were talking about there, and I don't think we really delved into that last time too much. We talked about offensive bias, and he's the one who's actually letting you through. Who wants to take that away? Because I think that's something that might be interesting to fans that are only play the games. Haven't really haven't dove into the deeper lore. Maybe they just see what's in the cutscenes, things like that. Who wants to take that one away? Offensive bias. Mike, you haven't spoke yet. Do you want to do that, or do you want me to send that back over to?
No, yeah. Okay. Offensive bias. So, Medican bias was probably, I think, the first AI to come down with the Plagueis, or the, what do you call it? Was it the Plagueis plague? What was that?
Logic plague.
Logic plague. Thank you.
Yeah.
Basically where the flood can infect AI.
Digital. Yeah.
Digital. Yeah. Like electronic stuff. And Medican bias was in charge of the Forerunner military and their military efforts against the flood. And so they created offensive bias, who's almost a mirror, but I think maybe some slight limitations to limit the ability of him turning on them as well, or something, if I remember correctly. But offensive bias was basically instrumental in gaining back the and it's a long story, but gaining back the control of the military and kind of helping the Forerunner survive a little bit longer against the flood. And after that series of events, he kind of disappeared, and there's been no record of where he's been or up to. Well, it turns out he's been on Zeta Halo, and he was there. It almost seemed like he was there to oversee the
Endless.
Thank you. And so, at the end of the legendary ending, you hear his name mentioned, and it starts to make sense because a few times throughout the campaign, there's someone that's helping the weapon, or right at the end, there's a portal that opens that the weapon didn't open, and it becomes clear that was offensive bias. So, and like Jesse mentioned, offensive bias was already hinted heavily in last year's trailer and campaign trailer, because you can see a reflection of his 3 red dots in in one of the scenes reflecting off of Chief's visor. So he's clearly going to be a key player in the future. I imagine he's probably going to be more so in the main campaign, and I don't know about any kind of side stuff they might have planned. That'd be interesting. But the side stuff would also be a good way to flesh out him as a character or as an entity without needing to devote so much time for the actual mainline campaign expansion or whatever you want to call it. There we go. Yeah. Thank you, Jesse. So that's offensive bias.
That's offensive bias.
Reflecting. And that cutscene was never shown in the actual final game. So
right.
Another thing that got cut.
Yeah.
And it'd be curious to see what its new directive is, because remember, like you said, Mike, it was created essentially to combat mendicant bias, as well as hold the Flood and its forces off long enough for them to fire the ring. So now that task is done, what is it? Obviously, it's helping Chief, but to what end? And is hopefully they're not going to go. Hopefully, this isn't the kind of typical Halo thing, and more like the Alien thing, where you have good androids and shitty androids. So with offensive bias being good, obviously, but
it's probably
so much.
I always saw it as like an enemy of my enemy is my friend type deal. Where
but they did that with the hive mind already, and I'm hoping that they don't do that again.
But that was so. Yeah, but I don't see there being a reason that he turns on them. Like I think that's the original motivator,
right?
But like you said, like I'm hoping that like with the hive mind or 343 Guilty Spark, there isn't this sudden and predictable betrayal. There doesn't really seem to be a reason for that, unless well, I could think of some things like if Chief didn't want to kill
the entire endless species,
or something like that. Yeah. But I don't know. I hope they don't go that route. But that's already been played out to death between 343, Cortana, the
Bungie, Halo 2 and Halo 3.
I think there's only so many times you can kind of do that throwback nostalgia. That whole
well, it's a trope at this point. I mean, it's one of those things that
between 2, 3, and 5. It's
So how much like that's probably a good place to kind of move forward on. How much do we think 343 is going to, or how much would you like them to kind of like push forward and maybe take some risks now that they've maybe this I feel like with Infinite it was important for them. We talked about this before, to like solidify the base that a lot of the old time Halo fans that had lost some confidence in 343, and I think they did a good job of that. But do we feel like they still have to go a little bit further into that and continue with with where they're at now, or can they take some more risks and start to subvert some expectations in I guess these days, it's almost like you're almost expecting the betrayals and things like that. But maybe just try some different things, right? Like try some different things with the story, with the enemies and all that. What is your guys' thoughts on that? Do you want to see more, continue to see more in the direction they're at, or see them, veer off the path a little bit?
I think, I don't know if anybody wants to stab at this really quick, but I think for the Chief, like if we do get expansions that are outside the perspective of the Chief, I think that's where they may be more laissez-faire with sticking to traditions or sticking to the model that everybody's expecting now. Like I think with Chief, I'm hoping that they kind of make mini versions of what we've gotten with the campaign and build upon what are the endless, what is offensive bias's purpose, what is he hoping that you'll help him accomplish, what is some of those questions. And I'm hoping maybe like Mike and I think talked a couple times back, like it would be so sweet if we got an expansion where you play the ODST and you go investigate the Palace of Pain and there's still Flood, like
like a
something
horror
like
expansion
that.
type thing.
Yeah,
I would
exactly,
absolutely
like a
love
horror
that.
expansion that's a little bit outside the norm. And I think
Mhm.
the way that the architecture of the engine's built is that they've got a little bit more freedom to do that kind of stuff too.
Mhm.
And I just hope they take it, because Game Pass and the fact that this is a platform of a game and they're not going to be building like sequels immediately, things like that. Like I'm hoping that they'll take that as an opportunity to kind of stretch their creative legs.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good call out there. I do wonder if they might be a little bit before they get too nuts, or gets too risky on that. But what were you going to say, Mike?
I would prefer them to, because they have a good foundation here. There's, and if anything, I would like for them to iron out some of the wrinkles in what they've, and I think, to go back to like real quick, just the original, like maybe what I expect the first year is pretty much that, like bug fixing, co-op, and I would pop probably some bells and whistles like ray tracing, something like that. I don't expect anything like, and even with like the next story expansion, I don't even expect anything at E3. I if anything, E3, I think if there's going to be a focus on anything, it's going to be Forge, assuming that's ready enough. I don't expect anything story wise until next year at the earliest. But in regards to how crazy they go, I would be fine if they went as crazy as they wanted to on the side stuff. And then if they want to experiment and do whatever they want on the side stuff, and then you kind of use that as a test bed, that whatever works and is received well for the side stuff, maybe if it makes sense, don't force it or anything like that. But if it makes sense, integrate that into like the next mainline story expansion. And I would also prefer that like mainline stuff stays as the chief, but then with the side stuff, you can have different Spartans, different ODSTs, different whatever. And, for like example, like the Horde example that Daniel and I like to use, if that makes sense and it works out well, and they not only, if they execute it well, then who says they can't incorporate that in the next mainline expansion when you're playing as chief still? And at least in the books and the stories and stuff, the Flood were still very much a horrifying threat, even the Spartans. So,
go ahead.
Sorry. And they can expand that and make the Flood even more intimidating or dynamic, like making Spartan Flood and stuff like that. You running into stuff like that. There's a lot of different options that they can do. So, go balls to the walls with the side stuff that doesn't really impact the mainline platform, and then naturally, that's how I would prefer it.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a good point. And it's something a lot of people, I think, have acknowledged. Even people have all of a sudden turned really negative lately for attention. But like, oh, that was quick. It was like, what, just last week we were just talking. It's like right in that way. But anyways, I won't get into all that stuff. But obviously there's some opportunities, right? But the foundation of it is so good. And that is what it's exciting, and especially as you explore like the lore, and you kind of see that they planted so many hooks to the lore, and then that this is the first time I'm actually looking forward to one of the books, and then I'm one of those like Nick, I don't like to read anymore, but I actually will because I think
books since high school.
they did a really good job planting those seeds with the with the audio logs, and it is interesting because there's still a lot of mysteries, a lot of things they didn't answer, and I do like that idea. I do wonder if they're going to maybe focus the next big single player content to be a little bit bigger and stay along this path before do one more of those before they get crazy. But I would like to see them take chances and experiment on the side on smaller content too, right?
And don't get me wrong, like one of the criticisms that I have towards the game, like as solid as it is there's not much in the way of innovation or anything. They use a lot of design templates and stuff, and they use it well. Like I would really like for them to innovate the open world type structure, or even hub world, whatever they got going on here. Like, take that. Like, I get it, because to me this was kind of like the Coalition's Gears 4, where they just wanted to make sure that they have a good foundation to work off of, and then Gears 5 that they experimented and push things a bit more in their own direction and whatnot.
Right.
I would really like to see that with Halo, whatever I was going to say Halo
more Infinite.
More Infinite.
Infinite too,
Infinite Plus.
Exactly. So like, and at least I think it's safe to say that whatever the next expansion is going to be, it's going to be new gen only. Like it seems like this was the last hurrah.
Hopefully, and we're going to get into some of this stuff too, because I know we started here like with the lore, and I really wanted to do that because we had.
Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, no. Don't be sorry. I didn't really explain too much, but we're going to kind of. I think I also want to dive into we'll talk about where we want them to focus on when it comes to technical stuff, the game design, all that stuff. But I do want to grab some of the super chats. First, we had Faisal saying, "Looking forward to the pod. Have a great show. Thank you so much, Faisal.
Thanks,
great
Faisal.
supporter. Yeah,
thanks, Faisal.
Great supporter at XboxEra. Then we also have Internal Umbra. Do you guys truly think Cortana is gone? I don't, but then I wonder how they'd handle both her and the weapon going forward for Chief.
Yes.
I think she's gone.
Yeah.
Anybody who doesn't think she's gone?
This is her send-off party, I think, because
it would lessen the. I mean, that whole. I mean, was it Virginia Woolf's suicide letter? That was the whole speech that as you're walking in and discover, the playback of Cortana's goodbye message. It's like that would lessen that whole sequence if she were, not actually dead. So I think she's gone.
Yeah, and to your point there, well, first of all, they'd be doing that twice now, right? You can't bring it back twice.
Well, almost really 3 times now. If they did it again, because they had a really good send off with Cortana at the end of 4.
Right. Well, and that's what we talked about last time, right? Like this almost felt like them going back and because they recalled some moments from 4, right? It was almost trying to get you to remember that send off in 4 and think about Cortana in the way you thought about her in 4, and it was almost saying that, hey, that should have been the end, so we're just going to go back there again and pretend kind of like it was. And here you got new Cortana, and you've grown to like her now over the nice thing is that they have the same actress, so they'll obviously, if they ever want to do a flashback or something, if they need to, they have that in their toolbox. But as far as like an active character in the current world, I think she's gone. And if they for some reason did try to revive her one more time, that would be a massive mistake.
I mean, if the weapon takes Cortana's name, which I beat it again since we had that episode, and I know we left the possibility of it possibly being up in the air that she didn't. I think it's pretty safe to say that, because do
you think it's okay when she asks?
Because she wasn't asking for permission. I think it was you, Abe, that said maybe she was asking for permission to just name herself, but already at that point, Chief already said go ahead, or what is it, or like he already gave the go ahead or the permission. So the only way it makes sense is that she's the new Cortana. And I mean, Cortana is just an iconic name that's associated with the series, kind of like Master Chief. So
yeah, I think Oh, go ahead, Daniel.
I was gonna say, have you guys ever seen? Oh God, now I forgot what it was called. Oblivion, with Tom Cruise, and it was Denis Villeneuve, one of his movies. Amazing movie. But anyway, spoiler alert for people who haven't watched it. The movie is about essentially it's about 2 people who were astronauts who went into this spacecraft that had invaded Earth or shown up, and in the process of trying to figure out what was going on, they get captured and get cloned. And so Tom Cruise's character eventually finds Olga, I can't remember her last name, she's in Kirilenko. But anyway, thank you. And she, they fall in love again after they meet and realize that they were married to begin with, and the clone didn't know because he doesn't have those memories. And eventually that clone dies, and then another clone shows up, and so it was it's a really interesting dynamic of like, well, it's technically still the same person at this point in time, right? And so that's the same thing they're essentially doing with Cortana, and with the weapon. And so it's like, yeah, it's essentially still the same person, but it would be like if you knew somebody for the first 10 years of their life, and then you knew a version of them for another 10 years, and then that version died off. That person that you knew 10 years ago is still like, they still have all the memories, they still have all the experiences at that point, but it's the same thing. So it's one of those weird ethical ideological questions of are they still the same person? So
and I think it does create like an interesting narrative, like some interesting narrative possibilities going forward. I do think they did set that up too. That whole like, am I going to be like her? Because basically, I guess as far as AIs go, it's almost like she has the same DNA. But this is where you can probably explore. Well, you are not just your DNA, you're your experiences as well, right? That kind of thing. So I think they're going to probably play with that. And so at the end of the day, it's different, but she's enough of the same, I guess.
Well, he described her as him being exactly the same as Cortana, but as if they never met.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So whatever influence Chief had, and obviously there's the whole 7-year age thing. She's like a newborn versus Cortana that's
right
at the end of her life. But for whatever, so I just took that as whatever influence Chief had on Cortana wouldn't apply to Nutana or Cortana.
Yeah, I think I mean, we're probably going off tangent here, but it's probably
really,
different.
Really quick.
Yeah.
Before we go too much further back on track, before the internet burns us alive, I forgot it wasn't Villeneuve, it was Kaczynski, the guy who did Tron Legacy that directed Oblivion.
Oh, okay.
Correction made. Track.
I don't know. Yeah, but anyways, and I was going to say, I think they're different. It'd be like, there's probably a different timeline where Mike's a happy-go-lucky person, but no matter what his DNA is.
I think
but anyways,
would implode.
Let's grab the other super chat. We got DS Omen. Thanks, DS Omen, for the $5 super chat. Do you think 343 might turn some areas from campaign into multiplayer maps? I could see Firefight in those arena areas in the last part of the campaign. Yeah, I think that's a really good call out. Did anybody not think that this is going to be like a firefight when you're playing it? We talked about that, Mike, right before you fall asleep on the mic. When I'm back in the House of Pain again, I'm like, this is going to be a firefight area, right? It has to be. It's like perfect. You just keep dumping in wave after wave after wave. It basically,
you mean a House of Reckoning?
Did I say that? What did I say?
You said pain.
You said House of Pain, and it's Palace, and you always
Palace. Fucking A, man. I don't know. I'm off. I think jump around.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what is this? Freaking...
How did that happen? Whatever. Palace of whatever. Anyway, so God, let's keep moving. Keep moving. But no, when I was playing that area, it felt it almost feels like you are in a in a firefight type mode. It does feel like a horde type of situation, like a single player horde, right?
They've got all the doors around so they can have them constantly come from different angles, and you're not sure what. It's just this big square so they can balance where weapon placements are and everything. Yeah, it was definitely like that, I think, and they'll reuse it all.
Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts? Any other possibilities with the single player? Like, do you see some of the open world stuff that maybe they could cut out and throw into
the open world part? Makes that difficult. I mean, I guess they can insert canyon walls and stuff like that. If they did something like that. Tigger, come on. The Minecraft walls, I guess as people call them. What those are procedurally generated. So those aren't like actual assets that you know. So I guess maybe that possibly can make it easier to wall things off for multiplayer.
And they've also got the ability to just cut off the ground and you fall to your death if you go out of bounds. So they've got that whole system with falling into space on any ground, instead of it just sort of being, you have to build a whole water thing here. You can just have it so at the end of the map you just fall off the ring.
Yeah,
well, you've already seen it too in battle royale maps and things like that, where if you go outside the lines, and then
they don't do that for battle. If they do have a battle royale,
they literally, that attrition or whatever the hell the friggin' name of it might be, attrition, has the closing circle of neon death built into it.
Yeah, I remember that in the.
Which it's still not active, and that's what you need for the an achievement. So no one can 100% it yet.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Good question. All right. So let's real quickly go down a couple of these things. So obviously, we know that when it came to Halo Infinite, from a technical standpoint, they really don't use much of the RDNA2 features or anything like that. It was obviously a cross-gen thing. I think it's safe to say, right, that it's going to get better. Looking over time,
it has to.
Right. Yeah.
And just look at State of Decay 2, which had like no budget compared to this, and was constantly getting full overhauls of multiple systems. They'll be
right. It's just something Microsoft
will look
does.
incredible.
Eventually. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if what I'm hoping is, this is a platform, very much like Fortnite, and a lot of I'm hoping that really outside of the crunch, kill your dev team model, I really hope that, they incorporate any of the improvements or upgrades that Epic gave to Unreal Engine 4, they incorporated into Fortnite. And I'm hoping, I mean, it only makes sense that because I think it only makes sense to do the same thing for this. Like,
I think so, yeah.
I would think that, I don't know so much about the smaller side expansions and stuff, but like the mainline expansions, which I would think be comparable to the main game, those would almost have to look better, right? Because those would be like the sequel or whatever, and I would hope that it just, I guess, in the graphic horror eyes like mine, like it keeps it relevancy, and we know that they're working with AMD on ray tracing, for example. That is likely going to be incorporated in the main game, campaign, multiplayer, everything like that. So, yeah, graphically, I think just by necessity they have to.
There's probably not much doubt. I mean, like we've seen previous games get free upgrades, and this is a platform.
I mean, Hellblade even got a Series X and S optimization, 3-4 years after it came out.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, Xbox Game Studios have a well documented history of doing this type of thing. So,
what are some areas that you hope that they improve the most in, though? Is there any specific?
Shadow drawing.
Oh yeah,
cascading shadow drawing. That's the biggest thing that sticks out to me by far. It's like 10 feet in front of you, and I'm mostly desensitized to it, but it also just sometimes just sticks out to me. That's to me they have to add. I know they said they're looking into it, but motion interpolation, especially for the cutscenes, and also some of the animations you see for first person. Because for whatever reason, when I first started the game, it's got that like stop motion look to it, and for whatever reason, the game defaulted to 120 hertz mode for me, and it is extremely noticeable in that mode, especially. So those two things would be probably my most wanted, like just the shadow in general and distance shadows. Like there's a lot they can do to improve graphically. It looks good, but it's largely carried by the art, in my opinion.
Right. I'd agree.
The mods are really aggressive.
Yeah.
I mean, you can once you drop last gen, I mean, I think you can really utilize the architecture between both the SSD, because Mike and I have discussed in the past, like you still do have to do some engineering beyond just saying, oh, we're just gonna stream this off of SSD, but there's so many things that you can do to optimize that, since you don't have to have redundant grabs. You're not putting the same data 3 times on the same disk like you do on hard drives. Things like that. Everything Mike said, ray tracing would be great, but this is going to get kind of into like what we want from a technical side for campaign expansions. But if they want to build this where they talked about being able to fly from one part of the ring to another, they're going to really have to improve their asset streaming. So
yeah. And that was the first thing that jumped out to me is like, especially when you just jump down a mountain and you see things popping in. And it's not like even it's like way out in the distance. It's pretty much in your face, right? So
and that's the thing. Like there's those moments where you hit like a 2-second load screen, and Tigger. And he's attacking my other cat. Like an asshole. But like
yelling at kids.
So like what Daniel was saying, re-engineering like the whole streaming, because it's almost safe to say that they're probably using just the decompression blocks like on autoplay or whatever you want to call it. Like they're not really
optimizing for it.
Yeah. Yep. And so like that. There's a lot of little things that they can do, because the first time I hit a load screen, I was caught off guard. Because that didn't happen until like an hour or so in the game, and before then you go to like 2 levels or something, 2.5 levels before you hit a load screen, and I was like, this is amazing, this is completely seamless. So that whole thing, and like Daniel mentioned earlier about dropping last gen, it has the exact same settings as the 1X version. So granted, I know it's 60 versus 30. It
definitely feels like, and we kind of talked about this before, like coming in hot, and from a content standpoint, from a stability for the vast majority of the part, that's fine. But I think graphically, it's not a bad looking game, and there are times where it looks fantastic, specifically in the interiors and things like that. But there are definitely
some of the textures.
Like Mike was saying. Yeah, like Mike was saying, with the settings being identical, there are definitely areas where because we've seen examples of other games on the Series X, what it's capable of, even outside of optimized engines. So this is very clearly like the foundation, and hopefully they're going to be going up from there. But I think that's a pretty safe bet.
Hopefully they bail on that Xbox One, right? Because the other thing is, and I guess we can kind of move into this a little bit too. Like when I start thinking about what do I want to see in the campaign, I start to, I replayed the campaign again too. I did the heroic and legendary runs, and the second time is more when you start to think of what, as a Halo person, as a Halo fan, what might be missing. And I'm also somebody like, I think the gameplay loop was a 10, but when I think about the tone and, the tone was good, but like when I think about some of the pacing things, like when you look back at some of the earlier Halos, and I was trying to think of like, well, what is some of the things that some of the earlier ones did better than this from a campaign standpoint? And I think like the variation, the from the quiet to like now there's a lot of stuff going on, especially for the time, right? Like, you go back now and it's like, okay, that's not a big deal. But at the time, when you're dropped on the beach, it's like, whoa. Or the first time you see scarabs, 2 scarabs in Halo 3, it was like a whoa moment, right? For those times. So I'm hoping that when they now drop Xbox One, it's not, for me, it's not all about like, I'd rather they sacrifice ray tracing and throw a bunch more stuff on, not all the time. I don't need, this doesn't need to become, it doesn't need to be like Doom where it's like always like it's like you're sweating constantly, but it'd be nice to see some spikes in the, once in a while where you get out there's a bunch of Marines, there's a bunch of things flying around. There's a scarab, you can go to that. We talked about that, I think last year. I remember that was one of the things he threw out there. Like what he wanted to see in the campaign was that like, let's like blow it out and have one of those holy crap moments where you walk out and it's a battlefield, right?
I've said it multiple is what. Oh, we lost your camera, Abe.
Oh, we lost Abe.
Oh, sorry. Hold on.
But yeah, like multiple
I'm
times.
coming
That was one of my few disappointments with the campaign is not seeing a scarab out in the open areas,
Mhm.
And kind of touch on what you were saying just there, Abe. Like, if they did make it seamless with the streaming, so that there weren't any load times, it would make it more seamless, like going from the indoor to the outdoor.
Mhm.
Because that was one of the things. Like, I think you can argue, if you look strictly at the missions themselves, the lack of variety, I think, hurts it a little bit more, because there's this disconnect from like the open world to like one of the Forerunner structures, because you got that loading, whereas even like CE, it's largely Ring and Forerunner outside of the Pillar of Autumn, but you still go in and out of the whatever biome you're in, whether it's snow or grass or rock, and then also you go in and out. So like upgrading the streaming so that you can go in and out without that load screen would help that kind of impression. And I'm right there with you. Like, ray tracing to me, like, I hope to God they don't do ray trace reflections, because one, the screen space reflections in this game, like, of all the, like, it's not
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's one of the best implementations of screen space reflections. The calling around the edges of the screen is very well hidden. It's like almost non-existent. The clipping and stuff for like objects in front of you or in front of different structures, it's handled absolutely wonderfully. If anything, they should do like GI, which is a relatively it's less expensive. You wouldn't get the same kind of hit with like resolution, and it could also have an additional impact on like lighting and the overall mood. Shut up, Puzzle.
Yeah,
my cats.
Mike, why are you yelling at your cats? Jesse hasn't spoken in a while. Jesse, any thoughts on anything we were kind of going through?
The main thing outside of what you guys talked about is modders have been implementing the weather system, which does exist.
Yes.
And they've been showing that off in both multiplayer and single player on PC. You can search for it on Twitter and whatnot, but it looks real nice. It's obviously not done. They say like it doesn't work right. It doesn't look perfect, but what's there does look very good. There's sandstorms and monsoons, and there's no snow or anything that I've seen. So, but yeah, it looks real nice, and I look forward to that getting mixed in to go along with those clouds and have like see a storm in the horizon coming in. You can have it like at a predetermined time if you're in the open world on a mission or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm real interested to see if everything's always located on Zeta Halo or not throughout this whole time. Because I think to start it will be, because they've already got all of these assets, everything they've made, everything they pulled from their original plans that's there that they can pretty quickly probably work with. The only thing that might be long is depending on how much dialogue and stuff you need to do, because like Joe showed himself writing scripts. So they get the people in to do the voice acting, and that, would take time. But as far as asset creation and everything, when you've already got all that stuff, the early things we'll see probably be desert. That's mostly what we've seen outside of the Pacific Northwest. Then you work towards, snow and other various things, and maybe eventually other locations or ships that show up on Zeta Halo when you get levels on new banished ships or something, or endless technology, They had a bunch of ships like friggin' Collins. Who knows? But yeah, the main thing I think will help outside of the better lighting and better use of the lighting and shadows, so that things in the distance look right and look better, would be that weather system they've talked about. I think would be huge for that open world.
Yeah,
and that's in like that. You bring up a good thing, Jesse, because like I forgot who, but someone brought it up earlier in the chat. I wouldn't mind, like in future expansions, having a mission where you're on the ring and you fly up to a banished ship, wreak havoc up there, and then drop back down, kind of like a
Truth and Reconciliation.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's so like that's the first level I ever saw from Halo, and that is a throwback. That like I was expecting that, honestly. I was, because they're doing so many little callbacks that I almost I thought that we would eventually get pulled up into a ship, and there's a lot of interesting things you can do up in there, right? But that's
and even like they kind of have this unique position from a narrative and from a technology design standpoint, with the ring being so damaged. Like imagine an area where the weather management system's screwed up, and so you just have like you go from clear day to snow to thunderstorms, like something cool like that. Like they have so much. I mean, they kind of set it up beautifully. Now if they take it, if they take advantage of it, they have I think something special there where they could actually do some really unique gameplay level design. I mean, that's one of the things we talked about Gears 4 earlier. Like that was one of the cool things about Gears 4 and 5 were the God, I can't remember what they were called, but the storms. Remember, Mike?
Oh yeah.
But like something like that, but more variety and more impact maybe to the dynamism of combat.
The Floodnado.
Floodnado. That sounds like a sci-fi movie waiting to happen. Well, but you know what Halo has that Gears doesn't. Nothing against Gears fans, but it does have a bit variety. More the physics, right? Like things aren't as all stapled to the ground. Everything that you see, it feels like it's all geometry, right?
And speaking of the ground, one thing I wondered about real quickly was they showed that submersible in the original trailer for the engine.
Yeah.
Would they ever do one, water stuff? Because the only water in Infinite's campaign is at your ankles, essentially. So will they have like a full water physics system in
Jesse wants water
ocean
games.
area? I wonder, make Subnautica but Halo.
That is a good call. That's another good call. Well, and we didn't see a lot of the wildlife they had planned. Obviously that was part of the vision. But like somebody said before, that what we saw when that thing was first revealed was the initial high, shoot for the stars vision of the game. But they got 10 years to kind of shoot for the stars. So you'd have to assume that. I mean, water's been in Halo before, not that Master Chief could ever swim in it before, because we know he can't swim.
He couldn't swim, but in Halo 3, you remember on Sierra 117, you could just walk around in the dam area and play with the fishies and all that kind of stuff.
Couldn't see shit.
Awesome. Couldn't see shit, no, but it was awesome. Like I remember being in there, it's like, oh my god, there's fish under here, and they actually had AI and all that kind of jazz.
And that's kind of the thing. Like, I would love for them to, because there are already a decent number of like little details and stuff. I would love for them to like improve the water to get to Halo 3 level, because I don't think water's ever looked as good. It's looked good, but like the whole physics interaction.
Yeah, it's high resolution, but the fluid dynamics are a little bit. But I mean, they're still there, which is nice considering that a lot of open world games just kind of eschew that effect because it is a little bit costlier.
It's usually just normal maps and stuff.
But
little things like that. Same thing with like we've talked about it before, and I don't think it's just the gamma issue that's causing the night not be as night, because like, but you can adjust the brightness, but then you get black crush. But there's just like if they can make it darker so that like the lights pop more and the night is more night, and also, I know I mentioned it before, but I would really, really, really love for Laser Blast to light up environments again. Like that a nice dark night can give you like a really cool, like futuristic warfare type scenes.
Ooh, imagine walking out into like a night with a big battlefield out.
Oh yeah, that's exactly it. Like you loading up and you see in the distance some Marines that need help. You can see their guns light up the environment, but then you can also just see all the laser shots just being trailed all across. By
the way, for anybody that's just starting up the campaign and remapping your controls, go ahead and map something over top of the flashlight. You don't need it.
You only need it for like one spot in the entire game.
I forgot I had a flashlight in the game until I was screwing around and accidentally clicked it when I was trying to switch gear.
You can make that your. I wish you could make that your default grapple shot button.
Oh man, is there any other thoughts like about the game design or even the sandbox itself? I mean, I feel like at this point the grapple shot's probably a mainstay forever.
Yeah,
right.
it
Like,
has,
that can't go anywhere.
I think this whole equipment system will be, and it'll always end up being 4 with one of them being the grapple shot because there's just not enough buttons on a controller. I know I got used to swapping on the fly. Some people really never did, and just stuck with a grapple shot the whole time. Then complained legendary was too hard, and it's like, well, yeah,
you're not utilizing the tools.
Yeah, but
legendary wasn't that hard, honestly. But anyway,
it wasn't if you use all the tools. But if you only ever grapple shot it around and you didn't use anything else, it's probably pretty hard.
Yeah, you got to throw down that shield in some of those rooms, and throw down your sensors and all that stuff. So, like, any kind of thoughts on what could be replaceable? Like, is there any other? Obviously, grapple shot stays. Do you think they could replace all 3 of the other things with something new next time? Or
I wouldn't complain as long as it's an improvement or at least as good. That's the thing. If they replaced it with something that was shit,
and they've got other stuff in multiplayer. Like, people would probably like to have the repulsor in single player. That'd be fun to mess around with.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Let you choose always a grapple shot, but you can swap up other things.
Yeah.
I mean, just replace the flashlight button with grapple shot and throw in an additional equipment slot.
I think the problem there is, in terms of like overall game design, is that the grapple shot pretty much takes care of all your vehicle needs. So, like, outside of maybe bouncing back rockets and grenades, the repulsor, I think, would have less use than maybe in multiplayer.
It absolutely would have less use, but it would be fun. I don't know. I don't know how they would use it. Hopefully they continue to get creative. We already know they're going to come out with new weapons, right?
They could just let you do a loadout. Like, you load out, you choose. You always have grapple shot, but you can swap out the other 3 as you'd like. Type of thing.
I mean, they've already got
that'd
the
be like an inventory system, though. You think they would go that far? I feel like that's what Staten.
If it's just a basic, you just have these things and you can upgrade them each, but there's no. You got to go find gear and drop gear. It's just you choose a specific thing at the fob type of thing.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, maybe. It'd be interesting to see.
And then they do a full Schluter with the multiplayer Spartans outside as extra content, please. Thank you.
No Schluters. That's not happening.
You have your normal Halo with Master Chief and some normal ones. You got the normal stuff, and then you also have your games of service.
No, you just switch over to Destiny, Jesse, and you leave
Destiny.
Halo alone.
Well, no, because Destiny keeps taking away all the stuff I bought, so I don't.
No kidding.
Anymore.
Well, that's yours and Destiny's problem.
Yeah,
I think that's your problem.
Too is what I
I don't want Halo to not be Halo. Please, just stop.
I feel like with Staten at the helm, I feel like that's. I mean, whether you wanted it or not, I feel like that's probably something we won't see. I mean, maybe Phil steps in and it's because he can't buy Bungie, he has got to make Halo Destiny. No, but
you have an offshoot. It doesn't take over the main game. It's just its own offshoot that becomes more popular because people will like it better.
So from a game design standpoint, now they did obviously this time they did the fobs, they did the high value targets. I think the high value targets went over pretty well. Fobs I've heard kind of like, I don't think anybody's hated them, but there's some people that said they got a little bit old by the end of the game, that kind of thing. Any thoughts there? Like, do you think are you hoping they kind of change that?
Yes.
Change up the design from that standpoint.
100%.
I'll let you go, Mike. Yeah,
that's where the innovation. That's where I was hoping. That's where I'm hoping they innovate in the future. Because with the fobs, I didn't hate it as much as I thought. I didn't hate it at all. I thought I would absolutely despise it, to be frank. But like it did become
not Frank or Mike.
My middle name is Frank. But it did become like formulaic, and so. Like I mentioned before, I try to do everything I could within the region before I hit the fob, because it made discovering things a lot more fun, because you weren't being guided, you weren't having your hand held, you were just naturally discovering things on the ring. But then it did bother me that high value targets didn't show up on the ring until you did the fob. So like I wish you were able to run into those types of things.
I didn't even
So-
know that. I didn't realize you couldn't find them before.
Yeah,
unlocking the fob.
and so like if I don't mind the fob itself, I just hope they evolve it so that it's more organic and less icon driven and open world cliched. Like it just make the fobs more integrated within the lore of that region, I guess. You know,
Yeah.
you can and then through, because I've used the example before where you unlock a fob, you intercept like a transmission, and that takes you to, you know, a handful of Marines that are got cat hair in my mouth. You got Marine, you know, you get like imprisoned Marines, and then, you know, you rescue those Marines, and then they tell you about like a weapon cache or something, a deep deployment or something. And then like once you can get something from that weapon cache that you upgrade, I guess, the fob, so that it unlocks more of, because just like the whole I can unlock everything in the surrounding region, it's I'm not going to say that's not lazy. Don't take it that, but like it's straightforward, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I think what you want is more surprise. And actually that's something that, you know, again, when I was playing it the second time and I was trying to find more stuff, you know, one of the things you realize is when you take your time with the game, it is fun to get around, right? Like the grapple shot and the environments, which is different because, you know, usually when I play an open world game, it's just I find, you know, usually traversing the world's not that much fun. that gets old. I mean, for me, you know, I'm not a Ubisoft fan.
Immortals Phoenix Rising had fantastic traversal.
See, I didn't play that at all, but you know, maybe I will when it comes to Game Pass. But you know, those Ubisoft games in general all just burn me out after like 10 hours, maybe 20 sometimes. But the traversal was so good, and just kind of getting around there. And sometimes I'd get up to like the top of a mountain that was like, you know, kind of a long journey. I was like, oh, there's nothing up here. You know, it's like, you know, it's like, I think there's going to be some opportunity there I don't want to say it's going to become like a Bethesda game, but you can probably throw some more of those moments in there, right? Like throw some things that won't show up. Yeah, just a battle breaks out somewhere, or maybe you know, I don't know, like just a little bit more organic, like creative things you can find throughout.
That's one of the things that I was hoping to see, because like Far Cry 5, I thought did a pretty decent job of shifting the landscape and the regions that you're in, because in the beginning, when you're in each region, you got the whatever family boss or what a cult leader that controls that region. But then as you take over more and more of the region, you see more of the resistance. You see more of like the resistance fighting against the cult people,
right.
You know? And so like outside of the random time you see like a banshee or something attacking a fob, or you come across a group of Marines that need help, you never really see the Marines just on their own engaging with the enemy. So like as you took over more and more of a region, I would have liked to have seen just you randomly coming across, and it's not an objective, it's not anything, it's just like an organic thing in the world. Yeah. And you can partake, or you can just ignore it, and you know, it is what it is. And that's kind of the thing that like before, when there was like 4 Marines next to 2 mongooses, you know, like they were just standing there, and that was kind of like the gamey thing, that little things that kind of took me out. So I would love to see more. Same thing with like where it came to like the scarabs in the open world. Like as you become a bigger and bigger threat to Eshram, I was hoping that he would like lay on the heat more and more in the open world. And I do know with the interview with,
or as you took his like, I would say, or as you took his the factory out, like he'd have less. I wonder how much of the dynamism was limited by having to support those Jaguar cores, you know?
Absolutely. I can guarantee that's going to take, because that's a lot of processing to kind of throw a lot of random.
The architectural leap between Jaguar and Zen 2 is massive.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to you know, some of those it's just so much more efficient per cycle. And so
Yeah.
you can throw in a lot more AI. You can throw in a lot more complex scripts for said AI without bogging it down. And I think, I wonder if we get like in 5 years, if we get a kind of tell-all like documentary like we've gotten with so many other Halos, where they're like, yeah, having to build for this sucked.
Well, State pretty much did that like in the Halo 2 thing where, it's like, hey, this was no fun. We were like going to launch this in 9 months and we didn't have a game.
With the Satan and Phil interview, we do know that you were almost constantly under attack. So like, because I noticed Halo Gaming 08 mentioning the 2/3 being cut. That almost seemed like it was a lot of fat, either a lot of fat or a lot of stuff that was not fun.
The
like
Ubisoft systems.
From
what Colby Payne and some of those other guys mentioned. Over the past few months.
Staten was talking about how you were just constantly under attack when he first started. It was fun, it was great, but you were just constantly like defending yourself with your back against the wall. And I was really happy that they kind of toned that down so that you do have some of those just quiet moments, especially exploring the world and stuff. So, and Daniel, you do make a really good point about the Jaguar cores affecting that kind of living world, I guess, design. Because, what they did pull off with the Jaguar cores, like they have a lot more enemies and allies. Like they have a lot more AI on screen at once.
Right.
And I would argue that this AI is probably the best AI since Halo 3.
Yeah,
I would Halo 3
agree.
on,
absolutely. Like, it's the best AI 343's done by far.
Oh yeah, completely. And even because I know that they took the Blam engine for Halo 4 and that they kind of modeled the AI from that and stuff. But like even Reach, there are plenty of times that I'm like a good distance away, playing on Legendary, picking at an elite with like a DMR, and they're just taking it to the face. But they're not going in cover. They're not, there's no self-preservation. Whereas in this, it's both the the elites and the brutes, when their shields go down, they go hide. And I absolutely love it that the brute shields come back up, unlike ODST. Because in ODST they had shields, but the moment they were gone for good. So, Daniel actually, definitely made a good point that I didn't think about, that the living with it being next gen exclusive. I'm hoping, because I think we can all agree that all future expansions, even the side ones, are new gen, and Xbox One support is just multiplayer. Because I can see them supporting the multiplayer for like 2 years or so.
Here's my concern, though, Mike, with that. I don't want to say concern, but what thought is, if they did have, because they probably have content, being built in parallel. We don't know where they're at with some of the other stuff. I mean, they could be far along. It could be stuff that was part of this that's getting repurposed. I don't know.
I think because of how hot this came in, it was all hands on deck just to make this.
I'm hoping you're right. I hope, because and in fact, that's where I want the most of the power to go. Like, there's some things they definitely need to clean up, but you also brought up some good points. Like it's easy to zoom in on things with Infinite and call out some of the opportunities.
Photo mode. Give me a photo mode. I know I'm not going to get a theater mode in campaign. That's I'm not going to go there. But give me at least a photo mode, for crying out loud.
Agreed.
Would love that.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Well, I was just going to say really quick, we talk about dropping next gen. They have every justification to do that at this point, because most people are going to play Halo Infinite for the multiplayer, right? So that's going to require an internet connection. Well, they've already built the ability to stream next gen versions, Series X and S versions of games on Xbox Ones. So just build it for Series X and S. And people who are still on 1 and 1X can stream it via the cloud streaming.
Like I see bug fixes and co-op probably being the last like button ups for the last gen.
Yeah, hopefully you're right. And it is some good points though, and it's something that sometimes you don't give enough credit for that. As people, like I was saying before, like zoom in on some of the imperfections, and yeah, there is definitely some technical issues. But when you think about how wide the world is, how some of the areas do have a lot of different enemies, there's some of these sandboxes were pretty big. That you go into and you take over, and they got enemies spread out, and you can shoot them across the map, and then you can grab everything that's part of the geometry. It's not like in some games where there's invisible walls and it's just there for looks. I mean, even in Gears, so it's not just some of the Sony games.
This does have some invisible walls.
I think overall though, most of the stuff you see is stuff that you can actually hook onto and interact with, right? So there's some stuff there. One of the things that we didn't really ever talk about too much was the Valor system. I'd actually like to see that used in conjunction with, because I like the idea of it, and I know that they try to give you some carrots with the weapons. I think that might be a neat thing to tie into some cosmetics or something. Just give people a reason why you want to go find Marines on the map, go find, and if they do, like in the future, have like have those random things, like why would you want to go
cosmetics for the single player,
for multiplayer, whatever.
With Valor tied to the Valor, so you're not just getting something in single player,
or let me give Master Chief kitty ears,
or just the kitty ears for so we can beat the campaign. So you can go beat Atriox with kitty ears.
Stop shaking your head. We know you bought them because you're like, I want to be like Tigger.
I still haven't even bought the season pass, for crying out loud. I was holding out hope that they would have. That is, to me, that was kind of a missed opportunity. Like we know that
cat ninja for free.
God, no, I'll pay them not to have that. No, but like I wish because we talked about the possibility of them offering like the 800 points or whatever for the season pass. That if you bought the campaign, and that would have offered that. And I know that people from the single player design team were concerned of the perceived value that you're paying $60 for just the campaign, the single player campaign. And thankfully it worked out in their favor, and rightfully so. But they didn't know that, that at least the people on the dev team. So it would have been, and maybe 343 wanted to do this, but the bean counter said no. But I did hold out hope that they would have offered the season pass with the campaign, which is why originally I didn't get it. And then I also hope that if they do any more of those lockers, make it armor pieces and not just damn skins.
Yeah,
like,
that was a
like for someone that, and I know it's free to play, yada yada, but like for someone like there's not a lot there for someone like me, unless I do. But then if I put the $10, that essentially makes that Microsoft's first $70 game, right? Like. That's what this is, in a sense. If you want the full multiplayer experience,
unless you have Game Pass.
True. Yeah. No, that's true. But I mean, I'm one of those idiots that I pay for Game Pass and still buy my game. So.
Oh hey man, I bought the Steelbook edition, so I dig it.
Yeah.
So I just review them all, so I get a code and then I own them.
My kids are too expensive.
Didn't happen with Halo, funnily enough.
Actually, I'm the idiot who bought the Halo console and still bought the Steelbook edition. So,
did you get the game with the console?
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, he's keeping. He's helping the bottom line, making
sure. You didn't open the Steel edition, did you?
This was the 20th anniversary. I had to go all out, man. I haven't bought the Spartan Scrub.
Did you open the Steel edition?
No.
Okay, yeah, I would keep that like locked tight. If
I don't need it. I mean, I don't need the disc for anything.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's not even on the disc. So that is another thing. As an old school purist, I do hope that like a year in they come with like a year one we're finally done edition or something, like where they have the game on the disc. And like that kind of bothered me.
They pretty much won't ever for anything smart delivery. They'd only have the Xbox One version anyways. They would never have the anything smart delivery from them. They've only ever really put the Xbox One version on.
That's a travesty. That's horrible.
Whatever. All right, that's a different subject.
The world will burn before any of it matters anyways. We're fine.
At least it's not at least there's no NFTs. Anyway, so Yeah, I do hope though. Kind of going back to that real quick, and like I think we said it last time. One of my favorite levels was that one where you fight the two brothers. That one didn't actually have any, as far as I remember, that doesn't have any fobs, right?
No,
that didn't have any fobs. So like, there is some opportunity, and I think they even have played with it a little bit here. I think that they can do. There's going to be a lot of the foundation's good enough that they can take it in a lot of different directions, go like a lot of different sizes in terms of the size and scope of the different regions and things like that. And I did like the progression of that. Do any of you guys want to see a true open world, or you sort of like that? I like the region.
The bigger and more open, like Ubisoft, the better.
Oh my god! All right, let's throw them off the show.
No,
I like how it
yeah, I like the structure, because this was, I forgot who said it on Twitter, but this is more like a Metroid than.
Well, this is Rage 2.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is exactly like Rage 2.
Yeah, I tried playing that game. I got through like an hour of the dialogue.
The moment you unlock all the abilities, it's unbelievably fun, but everything else sucks.
I don't know.
That dialogue was I would have had to play with no volume on. That thing was just unbelievable. But anyway, I actually tried it. I tried it over the weekend. I put in an hour. It's like it almost took me as long to install as it did to play it. But anyways, off topic. So guys, let's see. We are probably coming up on near an hour and a half. So do we want to save the multiplayer for next time?
Yeah, we actually have a lot of questions.
Yeah, let's do the questions, and then we can do multiplayer next time.
All right. First up, Halo Gaming 08, Andrew Schmidt. It's right there, bam. How likely do you think we get any campaign content outside of co-op in 2022? Hope you guys enjoyed the new year. I can make it bigger. There you go.
Wait,
how likely do you think we get any campaign content outside of co-op?
Yeah, we touched on that earlier.
I don't think at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
Probably not this year. I do feel, I will say, I think they need to get to the point where they're releasing every year.
Co-op stuff?
Well, no, like every year they're releasing campaign content, whether it's big or small, and maybe you rotate like smaller content one year, bigger other. I think that they have a unique opportunity with Halo right now, to try a model where I think they can take more chances, where you have something
what if
that's
that chance is a Schluter.
No, Schluter. No. That's we've canceled that. But kind of like like a TV show. Like with a TV show, you watch it, you get to the end, they kind of set you up for the next season. People can talk about it. It's still fresh when you play it. Like gaming has never really had that. Maybe Destiny is the closest.
Alan Wake.
You want what you basically want is you want Infinite to be Microsoft's new Sea of Thieves, where it's at every show for like 5 years in a row.
Why not?
Infinite, aka.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that in a bad way. Don't get me wrong. I love Sea of Thieves, and I think they did.
I'm not a Sea of Thieves guy, but I am jealous they get content like every year.
What if they just start up a Halo Con, like you have Minecon and QuakeCon, Halo Con?
There's enough to do it.
Didn't they? Bungie tried that.
Well, Bungie may have, but
well, I mean, when they were on their Microsoft.
Anyways, all right. Next,
but
I think this year it's going to be very difficult because they got to do the co-op. But then
this
again,
year it's going to be about co-op. This year is going to be about ray tracing, Forge. It's going to be about the stuff that we already know on the roadmap. If anything, I think this year the big focus is going to be the multiplayer in terms of maps, content, stuff like that. Because that's what's going to be their big driver. Like the campaign is one thing, don't get me wrong, but the multiplayer is going to be their main focus.
Moneymaker.
Yeah. And then it's the free to play one. So that's going to be the wider potential for reach. So
we're talking about Infinite.
Well, if you look at
no pun intended, but I didn't know
what a reach, Jesse.
Oh my god, dad jokes all over.
I wouldn't mind it, Abe, if we got new single player. Okay, so would you consider this a single player content update? if they did like a refresh of the main campaign.
No.
Okay, so you want like actual new stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I think that. I mean, let think about like Sea of Thieves right now. They have 3 teams constantly working on content. I mean, freaking Call of Duty puts out a whole game every year. So obviously,
it only
it's just
takes 10 devs.
Yeah, I mean,
it only takes all their studios.
Right.
They only have to shut down Toys for Bob and make them a goddamn.
What I'm saying is
we're going to shut down the Grounded team and bring them onto Halo to make expansions.
You see what you did, Abe? You see what you did? Are you happy now? No.
What other games can we cancel to get more Halo content?
If they
K3.
Just stop making it proud.
God, no.
That was a meta reference. That was not me being serious.
If they build out 343, because I think that's another challenge they face is that there was a lot of contract work with the initial development. So what they really need to do, and I think part of that was maybe due to the lack of solid leadership. I don't know how to describe it, but like if they have really development foundations in place, which is what I'm hoping, because Staten's not going to be there forever. I know that he's playing the part that he's part.
We're going to clone him like Cortana so that you just keep refreshing him.
Yeah,
keep getting Cyrillic spammers in the chat. The 5th one of it.
Yeah.
So we're hitting the big time, boys. We're getting Russian porn bots.
Awesome. So yeah, if they do like, so what would see, like my concern is the quality of it, if you're going to pump it out every year, what quality level are you expect? Like it would be cool if they had a side team that pumped out, because what was ODST, 18 months? I think that was 18 months.
I mean, and that was a pretty substantial. So, and that's the thing. Like, you can do that stuff, and maybe to your point, Mike. Maybe you like, and this goes back to what I said earlier. Maybe you do have a bigger, longer cycle, and you have some other teams that put out.
He's got a bigger and longer. Don't you worry.
All right, I guess we should move on to the next question.
The thing is, a big part of the engine overhaul was being able to come out with stuff more.
Yeah,
it's more nimble.
Yeah, if they did that correctly, then, I mean, they've already got a ton of assets. A lot of it just comes down to writing, figuring out combat scenarios, and, hopefully less of the time is the issue Destiny always had. You got jack shit for new content in Destiny all the time, and they would just reuse the same stuff, because moving one rock meant they then had to spend 12 hours letting everything re-render with the lighting system.
Yeah.
And we don't know that right now, too. We don't know how.
I know it. I'm from the future.
Oh, good. But that was the intent. That's what they talked about back when Chris Lee was still there. That they were even Bonnie Ross said that in an interview.
Yeah,
like
Bonnie Ross said it multiple times.
Yeah, they're trying to build it.
Engine is,
and you can even see that it is kind of modular, right? Like a lot of the things in there look like they can be moved around.
Well, a lot of the problem with the original Blam engine was like the lighting, and you had to, like Jesse said, you had to. I thought he was frozen.
I'm super zen.
But you had a
keep going, Mike.
But yeah, you had a
don't let Jesse distract you.
So yeah, and a lot of the lighting model and stuff was changed around in Infinite. So
I'm gonna have to look at another screen while I'm talking, because this is not working for me. Keep going.
So I think it's more of a I think it's more of a personnel challenge than an engine challenge. So that's going to be an interesting thing to see how they develop. Like if they have a side team that works on the side things, and then you have your main team that works on the main thing. Like I don't think you want much cross pollination or whatever, like. Obviously, you want cross collaboration with things that benefit whatever
narrative and all that kind of jazz.
But I don't think you'd want things that would pull resources away from whatever those people are targeting.
Yeah.
So
really quick, I think contract work isn't going away, especially in the games industry. I mean, it's more prevalent across the board, not just with Microsoft Studios. But I'm hoping that if you look at the staff count of XGS at the start of 2021 versus the end of 2021. I mean, I did the math a few weeks ago for one of our forum posts, and I think it's like a 30% increase in staff.
Mm-hmm.
But there, from what I recall, there wasn't as much with 343, and I wonder if, kind of like we've mentioned the bean counters before. I wonder if they were waiting for, seeing how the response to Halo Infinite was before making more staff increases. But I hope that I mean, it's obviously doing well, and I hope that it's doing well enough to encourage that team to get more people, because I agree, Mike. I think having to avoid crunch, to avoid kind of that tropey expansion that we sometimes get with some other games, that it's kind of just like a new coat of paint more than something new. I'm hoping that they'll staff up and start making some modular teams to handle, like one team handles the first expansion, and then they've got a backup team to do the next and build from there. And then they have people, like you've got your lead engineer, you've got your lead narrative that does kind of cross pollinate, but in large part they're kind of compartmentalized so that they're not, like you said, pulling resources from the engine or from the engine team or from the multiplayer support team.
Well, and companies are hiring remotely now that weren't before, so they can hire. They're not limited to who's in Seattle. Yeah.
Plus, I think a lot of the overturn caused some issues with retention with that studio, because just certain studios will get a certain reputation. And I don't think 343 had the best reputation in that sense.
Yeah.
If I remember right, didn't I mean, the way Microsoft's, because 343 was still built on the old structure, like Obsidian and In Exile and those guys, they don't adhere to the same. From discussions I've had, they don't adhere to the same kind of like staffing procedures when it comes to contract stuff. No, I get what you're saying. For contractors,
18-month thing.
Yes, exactly. And so like they don't have the same percentile. Like, for example, where I work too, like we're only allowed to convert a certain amount of contractors to employees per year. And so
I think 343 at least used to be like that. I don't know if they still are, but they were.
Yeah, they definitely were during the time of this development. I'm hoping that that's no longer the case, because a lot of the new XGS studios that have been acquired aren't.
Yeah,
so,
and they couldn't be, like, because in some of those territories, that's like most of the workers are contractors, especially in Cali, right? So,
and I think, to go back to what Daniel said about the narrative people, it makes sense for them to be like cross pollination or cross collaboration, because that would actually. I'm sorry.
I just said busy bees. I'm just being.
But like they can also be the ones that make sure that the narrative structure is solid and makes sense,
cohesive.
Yeah. Because like if you have Staten and then you have Staten's counterpart or whatever doing the side stuff, you can have some contradictions. Yeah. Well, I mean, we all wish, right? but yeah.
Okay.
Anyways,
no, good answers. All right, next question, Mr. Jesse.
Jesus Christ, it's been so long, I don't remember what the last one was. Oh, 1 second.
Here's the first one.
Yeah.
Wait,
we're only number one.
Yeah, you guys have been loquacious today.
Sorry.
From good old Collingwood. Hail there, fellow Spartans. If we go down the Fortnite route of offering time-limited skins of well-known properties, what would be your wildest suggestion? Much has been said about Microsoft doing a deal with Marvel for an Iron Man skin. And as a Doctor Who fan, I would love to see Cybermen and Suntaran skins. How about a deal with Nintendo and offer a Samus Aran skin? Good old Collingwood, who is listening live again as he has come back to working from home.
Whew.
This is the how much do you want to piss off Mike question.
It's funny because like when I was playing multiplayer with some.
They already have the Iron Man skin, by the way.
Yeah.
Do they?
Pretty
much.
I mean, it's not officially Iron Man. It's Iron Man.
If you put a gun to my head, I would say Doom Guy.
It's just red and gold. But yeah, I definitely would think some cross collaboration stuff will hit.
Yeah, I think cross collaboration within XGS properties is totally expected. I thought he was
Get a
referring,
helmet with big
Conquer,
Ori
right?
ears,
You're gonna get the big tail.
Ori and the Will-O-Wisp. But yeah,
I hate
he was
all.
talking more about third party. The only
Right.
reason most people play Fortnite is because it just has a bunch of IP they like in it. So would
I
Microsoft
bought
go for
all
other
the,
IP?
I bought Spider-Man, I bought Aloy, I bought Mr. Chief too. So yeah.
I can't think
man.
of third party.
I wish they would.
All the guys from Anthem, that iconic look.
I honestly have. I'm probably. I don't know if I'm in the. If I am too much of an old man when it comes to stuff, but I have no interest in cross
Yes.
IP.
Yeah.
You are too much
Yeah.
of an old man when it comes to this stuff.
I don't want any cross IP. I want it to be a Halo-esque Halo.
There's
Yeah.
nothing bigger for video games and making money than cross IP.
Well, you know
Nothing will
what?
make you more money.
Money isn't everything.
Well,
Teletubbies.
you're not
in a
running a $2
capitalistic
trillion.
society-
That's why you're not the boss of a
Well,
$2
hold
trillion
on. We
company.
cannot keep on going. Sales don't matter because of Game Pass, and to be like, you know what? Money actually matters for Halo.
Well,
You
the
know.
sales for
money still matters.
Halo is gonna
I
Halo's
know,
going
I know.
to
Yeah,
be a Game Pass pusher more than a sales pusher, but the free to play of Halo obviously doesn't pull you in for Game Pass outside of a perk every month.
Mike, I don't know if you know this, but
All that does is make
Game
it
Pass
possible.
wasn't like their charity.
Oh, I know. That's why I pay them $15 each month or whatever.
There's
Did you see how
a
much?
their business end game.
I can't think of I would be potentially okay if it made sense. Like I don't want the Matrix in Halo or whatever. You know, I don't
Who
know.
wants to use a Matrix IP anymore? Anyways, they pretty much.
Well, I'm just thinking of that because I was playing Fortnite the other day and I saw some Matrix skin shit. I can't think like if something like Doom is the first thing that came to mind, but that's no longer third party. Splitgate.
What?
Hey, no. What was that other?
That is
God, the Marcus Leto game.
Portal and Halo mix. So that's why I went with that.
Disintegration.
Disintegration. Is that too soon?
I
What if you get
want
to wear a Cortana
Space.
outfit? That would
you
be
mean Dead Space looks.
You know what? Dead Space wouldn't be entirely offensive. So
Especially with,
Halo
like,
5
the
had some
horde.
Dead Space 5-ish looks too.
Get your
Yeah,
I
it
know.
did by accident
know.
though. All right, cool. I don't have any good suggestions.
yeah.
I mean,
All
that's
right.
normal. You didn't have to even
Hey,
say.
you know what?
All
Here's
right,
my
Yeah,
next.
I know.
suggestion.
Oh,
Let me
you
turn
go.
it off. 343. That's my
That's
suggestion.
my
No.
suggestion. Yeah.
Let me force it on for him, even if they don't have it. Let me make everyone have kitty ears for Mike.
Why do you want to
All right.
hate? Why do you want to ruin gaming for me?
Kitty
Why?
ear mode.
Your
Where no matter
reaction.
what.
I don't.
you
I
think.
don't.
fun.
I don't force like non-gas shit on everything. Don't force that.
See, but I'm hard to break because I don't mind either way. I'm malleable.
Hmm.
All right, next one from some dipshit no one likes named Podrick Payne. Happy New Year to my fellow 2021 refugees.
Happy New Year.
Now that it's 2022 and we can hopefully expect some fixes and additions from 343 from the multiplayer, which particular ones do you feel they need to get to first? If for no other reason than to slow down all the whiny bitching that goes on in this site's Halo thread. My God, has that become a miserable place? He's right on.
Agreed.
And if any of my fellow forum posters feel like I'm talking about them, that would be because I totally am. So,
Oh my God.
pack it in. Let me begin. I came to
Jeez.
win. Battle me. That's a sin. Right, Obion?
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh
this
yeah.
is,
Wait, did he do a House of Pain rap? Yeah, he did. He did. Thanks.
I'm very white. I don't know.
That was the
House
House of Pain
this
rap.
is Doubtfire. You've never seen? Come on, man. Everybody's at least knows that song.
Nope.
I would say the progression is probably the most contentious thing, right?
I'd
maybe.
just like to get some stat tracking, too.
Like, I mean, well,
You know what? I would say that I was going to jokingly say
Now
you
you're not
guys
allowed
lied
to
to
say
me,
anything.
but I would like to have a stat for non-ranked, a rank for non-ranked, because you do get a number and stuff for ranked, but I would like to have numbers for everything.
Yeah.
Like they have for like Halo 3 and stuff. Like that's what I was saying that I hope we have whenever I thought they were entirely going to rely on the.
Hey, I've played this much number.
It doesn't even have to be I played this much, but I'm this good. Like just make it like up to level 50. But if I don't have
like, I can tell you how good
True
you are. You don't
story.
need a number.
you want to go, Abe? You want to go? Huh? No.
Oh, man.
I hope they disable crossplay.
Or at
Or
least
allow
give the
us to.
option. Yeah.
Excuse me. That's what I meant to say. Is allow us to disable crossplay across
Yeah.
the board.
That is a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
The only way it works is you have to disable it by default. Because if you allow it to be disabled, not enough people do it, and then you don't find matches. So that's what's happening.
Yeah,
with
I'm
Battlefield
fine with that.
2042.
Like Sea of Thieves.
Well,
like Microsoft already has examples of games that they've put out that have it enabled by default, but they allow you to disable crossplay, or they allow you to match the input type, like on Sea of Thieves. Like I can do both. And
yeah,
so,
but I'm
don't
saying
match input
as
type
far
in
as matchmaking, well, for Infinite, you can't turn off crossplay simply because it's always on Xbox's network, and the system level setting only changes it so that you can't go outside of
Correct.
Xbox Live. But the input based matchmaking is only for ranked 1 or 2 players. That's it. That's the only time you can set input.
Which is
based.
ridiculous.
Okay.
But yeah, the main
like,
the thing. My point is the only way it works with a player base and different regions and trying to keep everyone at a decent ping is if it's disabled by default, and then you have to opt into crossplay and you'll get way more people that don't opt in and don't want to. But if it's on by default and then you've got to go in and turn it off, you end up getting you can't find a match in Battlefield 2042 if you don't have crossplay on.
Oh, I
So
see.
you know what?
Yeah,
You know what
That's
has
all the
surprised me,
time.
and I do know there's cheaters out there, but as somebody who's now put in over 200 hours of Halo Infinite,
God damn it.
yeah, I mean, we couldn't close.
Oh no! What happened to Abe's mic? Oh damn! Let me try and fix Abe's mic real quick. Oh shit! Oh, hold on.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
there we go. There.
But I can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Mhm.
Hello?
Yes.
I've been a bit surprised that when it comes to the competition, the ranking, everything, it doesn't feel completely different from 5. Like there's sometimes where like, okay, there's somebody on that team that's doing something that weird, or there's a
desync is still
I think
desync is the big thing for me.
I think desync is actually being mistaken for cheaters a lot of times, because we've actually found that out. One of my buddies was in a situation where somebody was accusing him as being a
He's
cheater
dev.
because he was killing the guy before the guy saw him around the wall or whatever, and they weren't like super high ping. And then when they look, he's like, no, I wasn't cheating. Like he corresponded, like looking at the tape stuff. There's some desync issues, and I think that's the number one thing they need to fix, because I think
I'm sorry. Abe, what were they looking at? The taped stuff?
Yeah, whatever. Stop it. I don't like you guys. I'm gonna find a new cast and start a new show.
We recorded it with our VCR and then we played it back.
You had me brap Halo.
You're such an asshole. But anyways, what I was saying is that I think a lot of times what people are thinking is they think they're facing cheaters, but what they're facing is desync, and it's not lining everything up. And I think a lot more of that is going on than people know, and they don't really understand what it is. So when they're seeing things that they don't understand, they do think it's a cheater. And there is cheaters. I do think that exists, but I think more than that, especially when you get up to like these higher levels and people who have higher rankings and stuff like that, usually those cheaters, like, if they've been playing long enough, will get caught, right? It's usually going to be like the newer people that are starting up accounts.
I have a few theater videos with clear cheaters. Like those are
they
the
exist.
only ones
They do
that
exist. I'm not saying they don't exist. I guess what I'm saying though is I think.
Oh no! I know you're
There's
saying
some
that,
false
but
correlation.
you can save it and kind of point them out easier because of the theater mode. I guess is my point.
Yeah, yeah, and so the theater mode does help you kind of look at that stuff. But so desync is I would say is number one. But the other thing I've noticed is that the level of competition doesn't seem like I'm a bit surprised that I don't know. It doesn't feel like I'm playing mouse and keyboards. I know that they're going to turn faster and stuff like that, but I don't know if they've done things to balance out the auto aim or something, because they don't feel like I was expecting. I was expecting to be at a lower rank, I guess is what
it's almost like it depends on who you ask, because I've seen PC players online claim that console players have the advantage. Because
that's what I'm saying. I think there's some balances.
I don't agree with it. Don't get me. But it also could be based on what weapon you use.
That's
it could be one of those things
recoil and all that kind of stuff, because PC absolutely has an advantage there.
Yeah, well, not even just a recoil, but you can, because I think it was also determined the same thing with like Gears 5, where with shotguns, console players may have an advantage, but with snipers, PC players have an advantage. Basically the weapons that require more precision, you're going to see that advantage with mouse and keyboard.
Well, when you get to the higher levels with like BRs, pretty much everybody's hitting their shots, and it's a strategy game, right? So I guess that's what I'm saying. I've noticed that it hasn't come, especially on ranked where it is a BR start. I haven't noticed. I guess if somebody gets a sniper, you can tell. You can tell when there's a PC sniper, but for the most part, I think they've done some things to balance it out. I think the desync is the number one thing they need to focus on, and then obviously getting some new maps. But but we'll talk more about that. Probably.
Also, the stability with like big team.
That's okay. That's got to go number one. Get that working.
But those thankfully are different teams though, so they don't have to be. One doesn't have to be at the sacrifice of the other. Like the people that are balancing out the progression aren't the same people that are fixing desync and stability issues. So hopefully, I'm not expecting much until the end of season 1, to be honest. The desync and big team, I'm hoping that's fixed before the end of season 1, but progression, I don't expect to see any significant advancements or changes until season 2.
Yeah, I agree.
Really quick, adding on to what Jesse was mentioning earlier, from a UX standpoint, Halo Waypoint got a wonderful, beautiful, revision, but it's relatively light on info, especially compared to old Halo 5 or MCC, where you could see a bevy of stats, and I haven't checked it in probably a month at this point. But
have you guys used the Halo tracker yet? I think that has all the stats you want too, Mike.
Wait, does it have heat maps?
Old school, nice.
Yeah.
Halo 3.
No, I don't
remember that.
No, but it has a lot.
Hell yeah! I used to look at that when I was working. Man, I'd be looking at
all
Halo,
the time.
Halo tracker has a lot of stats, and you can go go look at it right now. You can look at all your matches, and you can look at
with the heat map. You can see how the whole match unfolded.
Yeah,
like a visual storyboard. I loved it.
Yeah, that was so cool. It was the future, man.
I don't know that. I don't think you get the heat map. Okay, but good stuff. We'll talk a lot more about multiplayer next show, I think.
Yeah. I was gonna. Yeah.
All right. What's next? Are we at number 3? We are all the way up to number 3,
We're
guys.
on Mort.
Wow.
Hello, guys.
I think this is
First, I would like to say that I really enjoyed the last show. Couldn't catch it live, but caught up with it over New Year's. You could easily double the time. It is very interesting to listen to everyone on the cast. The passion, knowledge, humor, and chemistry makes for a very good podcast. I missed Daniel, but I hope he's here tonight.
Oh,
There was a concerning lack of cats, though. I hope they're all okay. Enough praise. Time for a couple of questions. Do you think 343 will waste the entire 2022 on adding stuff that should have been there on launch, like Co-op and Forge, and trying to pander to the morons on r/Halo with the multiplayer stuff? Is there any possibility that those of us mostly interested in single-player content will get anything new this year, or are we screwed? Yes, you're screwed.
You're screwed. We talked about that. Yeah, you're pretty much screwed. I wouldn't say it's wasting though. They need to flesh out. They need to fix that stuff. And by the way, like if you haven't looked at it, the first achievement from the campaign, I think it's like less than a fourth of the people hit it. So there's 4 times more people playing the multiplayer than the campaign. So they're going to definitely need to flesh that out. Yeah. I mean, it's basically going to be the priority. But I'm with you in terms of wanting some single player stuff yearly too. So like we said, but I think that could be something they could get going next year. and then hopefully they can be more consistent after that.
Yeah. As much as I enjoyed the single player or the multiplayer, I've gone back to mostly single player.
Same.
Like I mean, it's the same kind of pattern for me where I'm on my 4th or 5th playthrough of the campaign.
We still haven't caught up to Tavish. What's he on? Like number 8?
Yeah.
Jeez. I've been trying to catch up on my backlog.
I've been
Part
both.
2. The
right,
market for arena shooters is not what it used to be. When do you think the BR mode comes to Infinite? I only know German. I don't know other accents.
Oh, that was.
Do you think it will, or has your opinion on this changed? It's European. It's vague European.
I was going to say, like, all of my family's from you. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. Do you guys think that there's going to be an official one, or they're just going to let Forge carry?
I think it'll be a Forge thing.
I hope they just do let Forge be where people play around with Battle Royale and all that crap, and focus and flesh out the modes that everybody loves. And you know, I'd prefer them to make a Spartan Ops or a firefight mode over something over BR any day. You know, I think having that PvE would be.
I would be down for
great.
BR because I'm a big BR fan. But I don't think they would do what I want out of a Halo BR, because I would want like a more specialized, like you're an ODST, you're not even a Spartan type of BR, and I don't see that. And that's not a knock against 343. It's just, you know, that would have to almost be like its separate type of game instead of part of Infinite. So I don't expect the BR unless it's Forge mode.
A traditional BR, I'm not going to. It's going to be 10 years, so you could probably everything you can think of is probably going to be tested and thrown against the wall and potentially come out at some point. And we'll probably dive into this a lot more next show. But I would like to see them do something that's, you know,
new.
They create a mode.
Unique.
Like maybe they do a big team. A spin on big team that's multiple big teams or something, you know, something like that, you know, that where
Mag.
I mean, where
I love a Mag Halo. I liked Mag.
Maybe you get 4 big teams going and get, you know, at it or something. And who knows? Like maybe you take that BR and you mash it up with something that's very Halo. And you know, again, I don't expect that to be this year or anything like that. But I would also disagree with them about I wouldn't say Arena's past its time. I think Arena is definitely not. It's not like the main thing anymore. But I think the fact that they are the Arena game.
Yes.
And I do think people underestimate what can happen if they continue to put out content and, you know, continue to keep the engagement of some of the, you know, higher level players and stuff. Because we saw with the last Twitch thing where they had, you know, record numbers and all that there is, it plays like a sport. And I think people, if they start to see other really good people playing it and start to, you know, maybe you start adding more equipment to it, different weapons in there in the sandbox, eventually, different modes in the ranked and all that stuff, you could start to, it looks like a digital sport. And I think that
e-sport.
Well, yeah, it is an e-sport, but it more than almost any other game. I can't really, like, Call of Duty isn't as interesting to watch in my opinion. I mean, and I know I'm a Halo fan, but it's not as dynamic, right?
That plays like Halo.
Right. There's not another game that is like where you can see these people have different skills when it comes to jumping and, you know, moving around the environment and then, you know, aiming and strategy and like, and then I was even watching some videos, like you really get better kind of here, like listening and watching some of these guys. And it's almost like, you know, when you're like, when I was a kid and, you know, would watch, you know, I was a Piston fan, you know, watching like Isaiah Thomas, and I tried to go out there, and obviously I sucked. But you know, you mimic your favorite players, and I think Halo could reinvigorate that area, and why not? Like, I just don't think there's been a game that's really been as interesting to watch. So
Yeah, I
think
mean,
oh, go on.
I was gonna say Halo is unique in that it is one of the only arena PvP games out there that almost entirely, like, what separates you is your skill and not your loadout, not what level you are in or how many times you've prestige and unlocked this new equipment. Like, it is all about your strategy, your skill,
Map control, your strategy,
and map. Yeah, exactly. And there's just very few games out there like that. And then you have like the inherent following that Halo has, and so people have been clamoring for this type of game, and really, this kind of, I think, barring some technical issues, barring some complaints that we all justifiably have, I think it has definitely hit every single box or checked every box from that angle. So I agree, Abe. I think people don't like you said, it had record numbers when they had their first HGS. It's likely going to go up from here, and and I think everybody should want that, because ultimately the success of multiplayer guarantees that we're going to get more single player, because that's what's subsidized from the popularity and the money that multiplayer brings in.
Yeah, and I think Daniel kind of hit it on the net. Like, because I was going to say, like, what's old is new, right? Because like now you have, I mean, Halo is in itself filling a niche that hasn't been filled since Quake 3 Arena or something.
Niche, before John gets on us.
Niche. And is that the way it's really pronounced?
Yeah, it is.
But like, who would have thought that Doom 2016 would have worked out as well as because like originally they were going to do like a Call of Duty type of design, and that got scrapped, and then they went back to like the origins, right? And that worked out absolutely wonderful. Shut up! And I swear, I'm not trying to be mean. She is literally just meowing at a wall. I either have dead people in my apartment or like
seeing ghosts.
Yeah, that's really what I think it is. I have actually a ghost story about her. But anyway, yeah. So I what's old is new, because like that's this is the strongest that Halo has been in years and years and years, and a lot of the complaints and stuff started with, Fuzzle, I'm trying to talk. Please work with me here. And when they started introducing things all the way to Reach with like loadouts and shit like that, like that's when it started losing its identity.
Yeah.
And so what do you have now? You have Splitgate and you have Halo and Fuzzle. And anyways, and so I think I'm done. I'm done.
She knows what Mort's third question was, which was who bought the cat ears. She wants to know who bought the cat ears. Mort, did any of you?
Oh shit! What Daniel?
I absolutely did not.
I bought the cat ears.
I gifted them for Mike.
Oh my god! Oh my! Why didn't I think of that? I should have. Well, no, that's a lot of money.
You can't do that, thankfully. Yeah. But
you can't gift them. Oh.
You can.
I will give 343 credit. They're not like the furry cat ears. When I first heard about it, I was worried that it'd be like, like looking like a Spartan put like cat ear
like
bands.
A furry.
Yeah, like it was like actually they're at least like metal looking. Like you can almost say they're Batman ears. Yeah. Like that's what I would say. But
when they do the Spartan boobs, that's when we'll know they've gone full uwu. And there's nothing.
They should have pixelated nipples that just hover around.
Oh my god!
Like what Batman was it where they had like the
George Clooney one?
It was Batman and Robin, the worst Batman of all time.
Well, no, both of them had bat nipples. Batman and Robin and
Batman Forever did too.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that. I think.
Oh man,
pretty sure they did.
All right, yeah. Let's.
That was the whole joke with.
We should probably move it forward. Good answers.
We got one last question from Dio.
Time to freeze.
All right.
Sorry.
Dio. Oh, damn, I closed the question. I forgot. I hit the wrong tab. Dio game. As promised on the XboxEra podcast last weekend, my question should Chief take off his helmet in the show? Yeah, probably.
He already
'cause you're not
does.
pretending.
He
Yeah,
already
you're
confirmed
not.
he does.
Yeah, you're not
Oh, in the
pretending
show?
to be him. Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's very different from the games because
Yeah.
it's not like it's not the Gordon Freeman. He's just an avatar for you thing. He is a character. He has to be. He's the main
Yeah.
character. So yeah,
Yep.
it makes sense for the helmet.
Yeah, I don't know that you can make
And
it.
Pablo Schreiber is a handsome man.
See, now that's the thing. I disagree because the reasoning was you can't make them relatable without taking the helmet off. But I haven't seen it, but from everything I've heard, the Star Wars show.
Mandalorian.
He takes it off.
Yeah, the
He
Mandalorian.
takes it off.
Oh,
Yep,
Mhm.
it is.
Yeah.
was it the first season
Oh,
or
you see
second
him in-
season?
Second season.
Okay, so that makes sense because I heard about the first season. I didn't hear anything about the
Yeah,
second
but
season.
yeah, he didn't take it off in the first season. And
But
it
that
still did
didn't
well.
that didn't affect because I've heard nothing but raving about the first season. So
Yeah, but that's also like him not removing his helmet is also tied into the lore of that specific sect of
Yeah.
Mandalorians.
okay.
So,
Yeah, it's a thing where you
Yeah.
can't. You're never supposed to let someone see you without your helmet. It's part of the religion.
right.
And with
And
Chief, it's
technically,
literally
actually,
just
there is
you
this-
know,
Yeah, there is a scene in the first season actually where he's
he takes it off,
uh,
but he
yep.
doesn't show it to anyone.
right. You see the
Okay.
bottom half of his face, but
Okay.
Yeah.
With it being part of the lore, that makes more sense. That's
Anyways,
definitely
yeah,
not
but
Halo.
I think you're
Maybe
probably-
Chief is just really shy. And that could be
really
the lore
ugly.
reason.
let me
Sadly, Pablo Schreiber looks a
Very
lot like Nick, so that
really
means
nerd.
he's a very handsome man.
All right. So yeah, probably
all
they're probably
pasty
gonna,
white and all scarred.
The
All right.
librarian like changed his face so it's like half human, half Forerunner now.
Oh, he's got like the pig nose.
Yeah,
He's all
Only half
human
of it,
but the
though.
nose.
Yeah. No, you guys are not.
Look,
gonna
I'm
get to
gonna,
it.
I might get us in trouble here, but I'm gonna show you a picture of the guy playing Chief.
oh god.
Ooh.
Okay.
Come on, man, you got to show that off.
How tall is he?
6'5", I think.
No, I
He's
just
huge.
looked
He's a
at-
big man.
Okay, so
Yep,
that's
yeah.
So you give
Yeah.
him like padded shoes or whatever, he can reach 7 feet pretty easily.
Mhm. And plus the fact that most actors are short as shit, he's going to look
That's-
enormous by default.
Yeah, that's the thing. 6'5" in Hollywood. I mean, these guys are usually like,
Yeah.
they're
5'8".
Jones.
Well,
they're
because
short.
my
5'6".
I don't want to call it a concern, but my curiosity was like, is Chief going to tower over the other characters? But if he's 6'5", and I'm 6'5", and I tower over most people I interact with, that's going to work out pretty well. So like,
yeah,
that's,
Yeah.
They could do it.
yeah.
All right, cool. So is that all the questions?
That was all the questions.
All right. Well, I guess it's time.
Do we need more, really,
No, it's been 2 hours.
at this point?
It's been 2 hours, and I want to thank the chat for hanging with us. For
Yeah, you guys are
2
awesome.
Yeah, and as always, thanks for interacting, for the questions, for the super chats, everybody. And next time when we come back, we'll be spending some time on the multiplayer. I'm sure there's going to be. I would expect an update, maybe a roadmap by then. And good Lord, that thing is distracting me. I got to
Are we
stop
supposed to get
looking.
it by the end of the month?
They just
I
said
would be-
January. That's about
I
it.
would
Okay.
I would be very surprised if they wait too long to give a roadmap. Because that always
and that's the
quells me.
thing. Like I think the more I get it, they had a very much deserved vacation, but I really do hope they keep the cadence of communication. Like that was one of the wonderful
Yeah.
things last year.
Yeah, I think
Yep.
so. But
Yep.
I'd be surprised if they didn't. Especially the one thing you learn with all with PR, it's just communicating more, especially when you have negativity and things like that. It does help manage that. So
'Cause when there's silence, you just leave people to their own.
everybody goes to
imagination
the
and
very, very worst case.
Yeah,
thing.
Unless you're our forums and they still take anything good.
Or most of the biggest YouTubers on Halo who will just
Oh, yeah.
and it's been a week or two without news, they're immediately
Well, it helps there. Yeah,
the game's dead.
Are people saying that already?
Oh yeah. Oh,
Oh.
yeah.
I mean, people say everything. I mean,
it
Mike,
doesn't mean that there's
you're on
anything
Twitter.
back.
So
No, I know. It's just I've either
Yeah.
shielded myself from it or missed it entirely. I thought people were still
There's a lot of
outside of
people.
progression. The progression I understand, and I get the negativity and also like kind of the bugs and stuff. But like,
I will say, I do think it's gonna. I mean, these types of things, there is an ebb and flow. I mean, the Destiny community is one of the most hateful groups, and they're also the most obsessed. So
same thing with Call of Duty. I mean, really, I think any hardcore fan base has a small but very loud, toxic grouping.
Yep,
it is. And I've said this before. I feel like the Christmas of 2022 is going to have more engagement than the Christmas of 2021. It's one of these types of games that you bring out new content. If it's good content, it's going. You're going to get a spike. We even see it with Sea of Thieves, right? Like, didn't they get like 5 million people in a single month? Years after the game's release, and it's not something I got into, but that just gives you an idea.
It was the Pirates.
It was after the anniversary. Yeah,
it
was after the anniversary update where it actually started climbing, and then the Pirates Life came out, and it just blew up even more. Like it hit like 24 million, and now it's at like 28 or 29.
Well, that gave people what they were asking for since day one, right? Like more of a narrative.
Not John.
and right now, last I looked, it was still top 4 or whatever on Xbox in terms of played. So it's still a lot of engagement considering big team battle doesn't work, and that's some of the issues. So I expect some pretty big pops over the next year. But if you want to come and complain about Halo, we do have XboxEra forums.
You'll be right at home.
No, actually, we have a good community. We do have some people that complain a lot, but we have a good community overall. And so come and visit us at XboxEra.com. And what else do we want to say?
Patreon.com.
I was going to say, we have our Patreon.
The best way to support us. Patreon.com/XboxEra. It gets you in to be able to ask questions on the main podcast, though there ends up being so many that we might have to figure out something else for that. Because holy crap, we could do like 4 or 5 hours a week just on Patreon questions with how many we started to get. But for now, that gets you into the. You also get some cool swag depending on your tier. You can go up for you can give $1 if you want. There's also a $12. You get a little bit of stuff. $30-something that gets you some cool shit. And that is the best way to support us.
All right. Well, guys, it was great seeing everybody. Happy New Year. If we didn't say
Happy
that.
New Year,
I probably didn't say that because I, like usually, kind of.
Oh, I saw all my New Year's animations. If you want me to set them up real quick.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Let's get off. Let everybody go use the restroom.
No, you can't. We're gonna get freaking canceled, man. We can't get off on stream. We don't have the XboxEra OnlyFans yet.
We will try to get some community nights going once Big Team Battles fixed.
I can smash eggs with my feet for money.
Yeah. All right, guys. Let's end this thing now.
Bye.
Thank you, guys and girls.
Bye.
Happy New Year.